evening, curious minds of the internet. I'm Alexa, the resident ooky spooky girly, and I am thrilled to be here today. I've been fascinated by hieroglyphs since at least grade 8, back when I had to write a poem on anywhere in the world I wanted to visit. And I got dark with mine, which may not be a surprise to y'all, but definitely weirded out the adults in my life at the time, since I used to be very much Little Miss Conservative. Just trust me on it, y'all aren't getting photos from that time. Feel free to let me know in the comments what y'all were like in high school. And now to ponder. Do these ancient hieroglyphs prove alien contact? In 5th place, we have helicopter hieroglyphs. So depictions of modern crafts found in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs have been hailed as proof of time travel and even an advanced alien civilization visiting our ancestors. For folks like us, hieroglyphs appearing to resemble planes and helicopters in artwork done thousands of years ago, have been hailed as unequivocal proof that the ancient Egyptians were visited by beings who brought with them advanced technology from the future. With many supporters of the theory saying if the ancient civilization was putting helicopters and modern spacecrafts in their artwork, then they must have seen them, or at least observed images of them, which, makes sense to me. The helicopter name is a name given to part of an Egyptian hieroglyph carving from the temple of Seti I at Abydos. They've been interpreted as an out-of-place artifact, depicting a helicopter, as well as other examples of modern technology. The initial carving was made during the reign of Seti I and translates to, "He who repulses the 9 enemies of Egypt." It was later filled in with plaster and recarved during the reign of Ramesses II with the title, "He who protects Egypt and overthrows the foreign countries." Over time, the plaster has eroded away, leaving both inscriptions partially visible and creating a palimpsest-like effect of overlapping hieroglyphs. As with all dates in ancient Egypt, the actual dates of Seti's reign are unclear, and various historians propose different dates, with 1294 BC to 1279 BC and 1290 BC to 1279 BC being the most commonly used by scholars today. Nevertheless, the 3,000-year-old hieroglyphs found in the temple in Abydos are said to depict a helicopter, plane, and futuristic aircraft amongst the usual insects, symbols, and snakes. Ooh. Snakes. One popular theory, known as the Ancient Aliens theory, is that, like I said already, the advanced race who brought details of futuristic technology to the Egyptians were visitors from a far-flung, highly advanced planet, visiting to share their knowledge with the primitive communities here on Earth. The beliefs claim these extraterrestrials were the ones behind the development of the pyramids, Stonehenge, and other world-famous monuments. And this is not the last I'll be talking about that today. Steve Mera is a UFOologist who tours the country giving talks on the research he conducts, and at UFO conferences, he produces these hieroglyphs as, part of the debate. During one talk, he pointed out that the helicopter, describing how it has what looks like a rotor blade and a rudder, also possibly a wing, they had to have the visual from somewhere. Once again. In 4th place, we have Nazca Lines. On a high and dry plateau some 200 miles southeast of Lima, more than 800 long, straight white lines are etched into the Peruvian desert. Looks to kind of be random. Joining them are 300 geometric shapes and 70 figures of animals, including a spider, a monkey, and a hummingbird. Okay, if I talk about spiders one more time today, I'm gonna jump out of my skin. Eep. I swear I used to claim my arachnophobia was mild, but it's getting worse by the week around here. The longest of the lines run, straight as an arrow for miles, and the biggest shapes stretch nearly 1,200 feet across and are best viewed from the air. Scientists suspect that the Nazca drawings are as many as 2 millennia old, and because of their age, size, visibility from above, and mysterious nature, the lines are often cited as one of the best examples of alien handiwork on Earth. Just, gonna emphasize that. Otherwise, how would an ancient culture have been able to make such huge designs in the desert without being able to fly? And also, why? First studied in the early 1900s, the designs were initially suspected to be aligned with constellations or solstices, but more recent work suggests that the Nazca Lines point to ceremonial or ritual sites related to water and fertility. And in addition to being visible from the air, the shapes can be seen from surrounding foothills. In 3rd place, we have the Rosetta Stone. So the Rosetta Stone is one of the most famous objects in the British Museum, and is technically a broken part of a bigger stone slab. It has a message carved into it, written in 3 types of writing that helped experts learn to read Egyptian hieroglyphs. So the writing on the stone is an official message, called a decree, about Ptolemy V. I swear I tried to look it up. If I forgot, I'm so sorry folks, I am running on an hour and a half of sleep today. The decree was copied on, large stone slabs called stelae, which were put in every temple in Egypt. The Rosetta Stone is one of these copies, so not particularly important at the time, but remember a moment ago when I mentioned it has 3 types of writing? So specifically, hieroglyphs used for priestly decrees, Demotic, which was the cursive Egyptian script used for daily purposes, meaning language of the people, and Ancient Greek, the language of the administrations, and the rulers of Egypt at this point were Greco-Macedonian after Alexander the Great's conquest. Now, here's where the aliens come in for me. What if These things also provided a means of translation for alien species. What if whoever visited to help build the pyramids and the helicopter-looking devices knew how to translate hieroglyphs, but not the other common dialects? And the boards also served as a helpful lexicon for them. The decrees were everywhere in Egypt, providing ample source material. So the Rosetta Stone was found broken and incomplete, featuring only 14 lines of hieroglyphic script. Although accounts of the stone's discovery in July of 1799 are now rather vague, the story generally accepted is that it was found by accident by the soldiers in Napoleon Bonaparte's army. They discovered the Rosetta Stone on July 15th of 1799 while digging the foundations of an addition to a fort near the town of Rashid in the Nile Delta. It had apparently been built into a very old wall. The officer in charge, Pierre-François Bouchard, realized the importance of the discovery. On Napoleon's defeat, the stone became the property of the British under the terms of the Treaty of Alexandria, along with other antiquities that the French had found. The stone was shipped to England and arrived in Portsmouth on February of 1802. When it was discovered, no one knew how to read ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, but because the inscriptions say the same thing in 3 different scripts, and scholars could still read ancient Greek, the Rosetta Stone became a valuable key to deciphering. Soon after the end of the 4th century AD, when hieroglyphs had, gone out of use, the knowledge of how to read and write them just disappeared. But, like I said before, in the early years of the 19th century, scholars were able to use the Greek inscription on the stone as that lovely little translation key. Thomas Young, an English physicist, was one of the first to show that some of the hieroglyphs on the Rosetta Stone wrote the sounds of a royal name, that of Ptolemy. The French scholar Jean-François Champollion then realized that hieroglyphs recorded the sound of the Egyptian language. This laid the foundations of our knowledge of ancient Egyptian language and culture. Champollion made a crucial step in understanding ancient Egyptian writing. He identified the hieroglyphs that were used to write the names of non-Egyptian rulers. Champollion inscribed this copy of the published paper alphabetic hieroglyphs, meaning à mon ami Dubois. He then made a second crucial breakthrough, realizing that the alphabetic signs were used not only for foreign names, but also for Egyptian names. Together with his knowledge of the Coptic language, which derived from ancient Egyptian, this allowed him to begin reading hieroglyphic inscriptions fully. After the stone was shipped to England in February of 1802, it was presented to the British Museum by George III in July of that year. So the Rosetta Stone and other sculptures were placed in temporary structures in the museum grounds because the floors were not strong enough to bear their weight. It has been on display in the British Museum since 1802, with only one break to, take a moment. So, go visit it. In second place, we have the graffiti inside the Great Pyramids. In the heart of the city of El Giza stands the Giza Pyramid Complex, also known as the Necropolis. This architectural marvel contains 3 pyramids: the Pyramid of Khafre, the Pyramid of Menkore, and of course, the Great Pyramid of Giza. Although each was created for a different pharaoh, many historians are convinced that their collective design is cohesive and intentional, as the arrangement of these structures is possibly a representation of the Orion constellation. The complex's crown jewel, though, is the Great Pyramid. Most believe that it was erected under the watchful eye of the pharaoh Khufu to be a tomb where the king would complete his transformation into a god in the afterlife. Standing approximately 146.7 meters high and stretching around 234 meters wide, it looms above everything around it. It was assembled from 2.5 million stone blocks, some of which came from over 500 miles away, which is really amazing when you consider that they didn't have the use of wheels at the time, and that construction took only 20 years. Okay, if that sounds like a lot to anyone, try living in Toronto where construction takes that long to renovate a single road. And by the time it's done being renovated, workers take so long they have to do it again. Whoever designed and built the pyramids had incredibly detailed knowledge and architectural skill. When completed, the pyramid towered over the city, and its corners aligned almost exactly with the points of a compass. In general, Egyptians often oriented structures to true north quite precisely, likely using stars such as Polaris to orient their work, and the Great Pyramid is no exception. The origins and composition of the Great Pyramid, our oldest wonder of the world and its slightly less famous kin, have long confounded scholars. How did engineers manage to achieve the seemingly impossible feats that building these masterpieces would require? And the truth is, no one knows for sure. While some believe that construction workers may have used large ramps to transport the stones, this theory has been largely disproven, as there is little archaeological evidence to support the claim. Naturally, theories arguing that aliens must have constructed the pyramid have come into play. It's true, it would have been difficult for humans to build the pyramids, and there is precious little historical evidence of how they were built. Citing this, as well as the architectural and scientific questions that surround the pyramids, many people, kinda like me, have proposed that aliens came to Earth in ancient times and helped kickstart civilizations. According to these theories, the aliens were instrumental in helping ancient Egyptians build their masterpieces. Believers like us argue that in order to design the pyramids as they are, one would need a bird's eye view, the kind that could be provided from, say, a flying saucer. They also believe that in order to create an object that obeys the so-called golden ratio, a mathematical relationship based on the special number of phi, the Egyptians would have needed help from outside sources. The alien theory has persisted to the present day. For example, in 2001, Russian scientist Dr. Viko Ivanovich claimed that the KGB had found ancient alien remains inside the Great Pyramid. Okay, come on. The Great Pyramid's inner network of shafts, passageways, and chambers is so intricate that it's hard to, not to understand why people believed that some kind of divinity or superintelligence was involved. Also, the only hieroglyphs inside are graffiti, alleged to be left behind by those who worked on the structure as a signature, which only further supports my theory on the aliens only knowing that to communicate with us by. Like time capsules, the pyramids are physical symbols of ancient wisdom, made of glittering golden limestone and always remaining around a cool 20 degrees centigrade inside. They provide glimpses of an ancient society that once neared the kind of technological intelligence we possess today. Hey, maybe in 2,000 years, historians will speculate about the extraterrestrial origins of our fallen civilization. And then by then, they'll be able to consult aliens for help. And in first place, we have Stonehenge. So, the mystery of Stonehenge has baffled historians for centuries. One of the never-ending questions about the ancient site is whether or not it contains hieroglyphs. And in 2015, a scientific paper was published by mathematician Dr. A. Zlobin in the form of a diary. He discovered Egyptian hieroglyphs in Stonehenge and determined the site as the solar Egyptian temple of the god Atum. There are several other theories that suggest that the site may have been used to record messages or a story. One theory suggests that the stones themselves may have been carved with hieroglyphics. This theory is based on the fact that many other ancient sites, such as the pyramids of Egypt, were decorated with hieroglyphs. Another theory suggests that the stones may have been used as a giant sundial, with the hieroglyphics acting as a way to record the movements of the sun. This theory is supported by the fact that Stonehenge is aligned with the movements of the sun and moon. Whatever the true purpose of it was, it is clear that the site was of great importance to the ancient people who built it. Speaking of which, who built that thing and why did they build it? Nabta Playa, as it is now known, is not easily accessible. It is thought that the stones are among the oldest astronomical alignments of megaliths in the world. They were built by a nomadic society in the early centuries of Stonehenge, and it is possible that they were built by an ancient civilization. Also, the tomb there was only filled with cattle bones, which is pretty unusual. My theory, and ergo why it made today's list, is that the anomalies point more towards alien advanced communication instead of isolated humans. Also, there haven't really been signs of human life, only cattle like I mentioned before, which supports my theory. And not to sound like a broken record today, but if there's something I can't leave out, there are things we as humans, can't explain. It furthers my theory that one of the languages aliens can use to communicate with, and the reason they don't visit, more now compared to in history, is because of how much we can no longer communicate with them now that it's not a regularly used language. And that brings us to the end of our time, and my theory has only grown stronger today. Just saying, feel free to let me know if you folks agree or disagree with me. And while you're doing so, why not leave this video a little like to help us out? Subscribe if you aren't already. Hit the bell for more out of this world content from us here at Top 5 Scary Videos. And I'll see y'all next time, you lovely spooky people.